Hi, my name is Mark Sanchez. Welcome to Cititalk. Today I have a gentleman, Bill Weir, who is a host and producer of a show called Friends of Main Street. And we'll talk a little bit about that, about Minnesota politics, and various other subjects. Bill, thanks for being on the show.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here, Mark. I've heard good things about your show getting started, and I'm honored to be your guest.
Okay, great. Well, first, could you tell us a little about Friends of Main Street and how long it's been on the air and those sort of...
Well, our Friends of Main Street half-hour program, weekly program started with Congressman Bill Frenzel as our first guest. We went on location directly to his office in Bloomington, and he very kindly gave us a good half hour of discussion of some of the burning issues of our time to help his constituents and others here in Minnesota understand what has to be done so that we can reclaim government and not let the government be taken over by permanent politicians.
Okay. And how long ago was that?
Oh, that was just a year and a half ago. We started in July of 1989, and we've been rolling every week since.
All right. Well, that brings up an issue of permanent politicians. There's an organization that you're familiar with. You've done a show with them, I believe?
Yes, the Committee Opposed to Permanent Politicians. They sometimes say, call the cops. C-O-P-P. They're feeling that here in America we have too many permanent politicians that are becoming a kind of ruling elite. And I wanted to give them the opportunity to put their story before the people of America in a program that is devoted exclusively to the Committee Opposed to Permanent Politicians. And the co-chairman, as well as Don Larson, a member of the group who publishes the business newsletter here in Minnesota, appeared on the program.
Okay.
Well, in fact, anytime you're ready, we can see a clip from that. Is now convenient, or?
Sure. Why don't we roll the tape and discuss that after we see it? Okay.
Hi, I'm Bill Weir of Main Street Majority, and it's my pleasure today to offer you a special program on the Committee Opposed to Permanent Politicians. I have two distinguished guests here today. Don Larson, well known to many of us as the publisher and editor of Don Larson's business newsletter, this publication that many of us subscribe to, and Dennis Stridd, an attorney in Bloomington, Minnesota, who is co-chairman of the Committee Opposed to Permanent Politicians. Dennis, you told me you formed this organization in January of 1990 and had given some thought to this for perhaps a year. What started you thinking about forming such a committee opposed to permanent politicians?
Well, the beginning of this committee really started with casual conversation, social conversation, if you might. Some friends of mine and I were discussing the 1988 elections and the results in that election. And it was brought to my attention that roughly 98% of Congress had been reelected in that election. And I was aware of the tremendous amount of money that had been spent by incumbents and those trying to unseat the incumbents. And it got me thinking about the whole panorama of our election process and the money spent for it and what was going on in Congress. At the same time, over the course of that year, we were reading in the newspaper about a variety of scandals that were occurring amongst congressmen. We were reading about politicians who had been in Congress for many, many, many years, spent most of their life in Congress. And it seemed to me that perhaps maybe an alternative way of dealing with the electorate and with the elected politicians might help our country. And from that beginning, we started investigating and exploring until we finally culminated in the organization that we created.
So it's basically concerned citizens, you and a number of others, that have formed this committee and that's now reaching out to invite others to take part.
That's right.
Across the country.
That's right. We are working here locally and also working across the country to try and gain membership so that we can accomplish our goals.
And during our program, our viewers can see their phone number on the screen for COP, the Committee Opposed to Permanent Politicians, and with an invitation to call. Anytime, what is it, Monday through Friday?
Anytime, Monday through Friday.
Even Saturday and Sunday?
No.
Just Monday through Friday.
Monday through Friday.
Business hours.
Oh, that's very interesting, Bill. That seems to be a real valid concern of a lot of people. I know that a lot of people I've talked to are very angry about the ruling elite, it seems, of politicians and corporations, business owners that influence the governmental decisions, have been in control for so long, control so much of everybody's lives, that the people are just they're sick of it. They're fed up with it, but yet there's a feeling of powerlessness there. Also, that we're a country that's supposed to have the power ourselves, but yet we really, in effect, have none. It seems like to some.
I'll disagree with you that we have none.
I'd say there's the potential to have it. I'm saying a lot of people feel like they have none.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. I think people can get that if they channel that energy in the right way, or there are steps to be taken. But a lot of people nonetheless feel that way, that they have no power, that there's no why vote, because there's nobody up there that they intended to have up there in the first place. Some PACs or somebody got them into the office, and then
I think this frustration comes, Mark, from people not understanding enough of how our system of government works.
Mm-hmm.
The basic choice that we have to make as part of the sovereign electorate here in America is not to abdicate, to use the power that we have. Mm-hmm. We're part of a very, very precious electorate.
How can we use it, Bill? What can we do?
Well, there's first of all, I think, to look at the system of government and how it operates. There's basically, throughout America's history, we've had two parties usually, occasionally a third party that will come in for a while to be a corrective on those other two. But basic choice I've found is that you have to choose one party or the other to be active in. And the one that appears to be closest to your values, or where you can bring about the kind of correctives. Now, I used to be active in the Democratic Party. I was a candidate for state representative in Iowa when I lived there, because I saw that was the party closest to my values and the needs of the people as I saw them at that time. But here in Minnesota, after having served as chairman of DFL Senate District 65 with my state senator Nick Coleman, and served as chairman of the Resolutions Committee, or the Platform Committee, for another Senate district in Roseville, I came to realize that the Democrat Farmer Labor Party here in Minnesota is dominated by permanent politicians, people who run labor unions for the most part. And I had to change parties in order to restore a citizen governing for our state. And so I've looked into just how to bring this about. I've been elected now, not just precinct chairman in my own precinct, a little area of about 1,500 voters, but also now the convention of the 3rd Congressional District, Congressman Bill Frenzel's district, now Senator Jim Ramstad's district, since he was elected, I'm sure, on November 6th. I'm the vice chairman for communications on that, and this is what led me into creating the television program Friends of Main Street. And I'm finding there the opportunity to help my fellow citizens, as well as myself, learn what the real issues are and how best to resolve them through activity in our political process.
How about for people that aren't going to run for a political office on a local level? How can we, I personally feel that the citizens need more power in their vote, that it seems that the vote doesn't count for much. The citizens aren't allowed to bring politicians into office and to develop people that we feel are good candidates. It's just people that decide they want to be a politician, go become to be a politician and run for various offices, become experienced. But the public doesn't have that much of a choice. It's kind of whoever is...
But we do. I'd like to disagree with you. This American system of government is far more open than most people realize. So that if you will just show up, first of all, at the precinct caucus,
yes, that's
every
very
2
crucial.
years in February.
And that's what a lot of our public doesn't realize. That's a very important aspect of the political system here that is vastly underused, almost totally underused by the general public. They don't realize that is where the people that are going to be on the ballots, that's where it's determined that...
That's the crucial time for choosing who will be your delegates to go on to higher levels of conventions, ultimately to endorse a candidate for each of the public offices.
So what I was just talking about, the way to cure that or to get past that is to get into those precinct caucuses or the caucuses and
that's
make sure we get the right people in there.
So it's crucial to be there on that last Tuesday, typically the last Tuesday of February, every second year, in an election year. And my neighbors get together, about 100 of us out of the 1,500 possible voters, and I felt good about being able to have a hand in making sure that a majority of the people there voted for the presidential candidate that I preferred back in February of 1988. Now, it turned out my candidate dropped out of the race, and I went on, though, to realize that this was a party that was truly committed to citizen activism and the kind of clean politics that allowed for our country to have a truly free enterprise economy instead of moving farther and farther towards socialism. And I think one of the reasons that a lot of us in our day have not understood how to take an active part with some power in the political process is that most of us have only been exposed to socialized education, government-based education in the public schools. You go to a private school, and I think you will learn more about how to take an active role in the political process. But because it's tax money that is supporting our public schools, I think the administrators, the teachers, become wary of really telling it like it is about the political process. And all too many of us graduate from those schools not knowing how to use our power in the political process.
I greatly agree that the citizens, the people, the public, need to know how to best utilize our system. We need to be trained, educated as how to do that, get more involved. There's so many people that aren't involved, and everybody is frustrated and complains about the way things are. There is a way to remedy that, and that's to get involved, to know the politicians. Maybe if you know if there's somebody that is active and they think might be good for a political candidate, try and get that person to run. You know, things like that.
That's what happened to me last June. A friend called me up and said, "Bill, there's a man who's going to get elected as Suburban Hennepin Parks Commissioner that we don't think truly represents the people of Golden Valley, St. Louis Park, and Edina. Would you run?" And so all of a sudden I had a Bill Weir volunteer committee and people contributing money to it and helping me file, and things started rolling. I'm willing to serve. There's no big income or power that comes from it, except being one vote on a 7-member commission deciding how to spend $10.5 million of the taxpayers' money every year.
And the parks are a valuable asset to Minnesota. That's what
one of the things that
our
attracted
greatest-
me here in the first place. Yes,
is the natural environment of our state. Our parks.
and a very precious part of helping us maintain our good mental as well as physical health, I think. To be able to get out into the beauty of nature. And
to get that balance, yeah.
I've taken part in the Minnesota Orienteering Club that is a regular user of the Hennepin Parks as well as other parks throughout the Twin City area, going out with my detailed terrain map and my compass and finding my way around the trails that my fellow club members have laid out secretly the night before.
Oh, orienteering. Is that what you called it?
Yes, orienteering. It's a sport that originated in Scandinavia and is taught even in the public schools there, so that kids throughout Scandinavia learn how to use the map and terrain maps and compasses to find their way around. And it gives a degree of, a sense of, I think, feeling at ease, regardless of what unfamiliar surroundings you might find yourself in.
Well, that sounds very good. Reminds me of some things we did in Boy Scouts years ago. Great. What could you go over again the political offices? What political experience you've had?
Oh, well, since we're recording this before the election, I don't know whether I'm going to be elected a Hennepin Parks Commissioner.
True.
But I am vice chairman of the 3rd Congressional District Independent Republican Party, where I have a special responsibility on communications, and that's where my role as producer, or co-producer, I should say, of the Friends of Main Street weekly public affairs program originated.
Okay, well, we've got about 1 minute left before our PSA here. What would you like to talk about in the next upcoming segments here?
But I'd like you also to hear from Congressman Newt Gingrich, talking to all of us American citizens about our responsibilities.
Great. Okay. This reminds me of an organization too I heard of in it's out of Utah. I can't Salt Lake City. I can't. It's something like the Center for Constitutional Studies that is teaching people how to the basic fundamentals of the Constitution, how our society was originally set up by the founding fathers, and some really good things I think that might be starting to happen here by shows like yours, other people in the country that are working towards making our political system a little bit better.
Let's talk about that.
Great. Okay. Thanks a lot. And this is City Talk. My name is Mark Sanchez. I invite you to call my phone number at 879-4822 or write into P.O. Box 50303, Minneapolis 55405, with any questions, comments you may have about the show. Thanks a lot. We'll be back in just a minute.
Ever feel lonely? I'm sure all of us have. But if chronic loneliness seems to be a part of your life, it's time to do something about it. That's our mental health topic today. I'll have more in a moment. Today on Mental Health Minute, our subject is loneliness. We don't have to be alone to feel lonely. We can feel lonely in a crowd, in our marriage and family life, when we're with friends. Being with people is no guarantee of avoiding feelings of loneliness. The root cause of loneliness is often just being too much into ourselves, into wanting to have someone else take care of us. We need to learn to reach out, to make a contribution to the development of human community through assisting others, particularly those who have a genuine need of assistance, offering words of love and encouragement, helping where help is needed, to give as well as take. Let's make an honest effort to reach out and help. When we do, we'll improve our mental health and become a lot less lonely. This is Dewey Renner. Next on Mental Health Minute, we're going to talk about anger. Join us then.
Hi, I'm Mark Sanchez. Welcome back to City Talk. Again, my guest is Bill Weir, and we're talking about politics in America and Minnesota. We've got a tape now that we're going to listen to, a gentleman named Newt Gingrich.
Oh, Congressman Newt Gingrich.
All right.
He's been chosen by the fellow members of the House minority group as their whip. That is the one who is responsible for keeping them in line, so to speak, making sure they know how to vote.
They've only got one man doing that?
Oh,
Don't they need more?
but he's more important. He's the general chairman of GOPAC, the Grassroots Organization Political Action Committee, and it's through the tapes that I've been receiving like this now for many years that I've come to feel that I'm part of the farm team, as they call them, the group of citizens that are getting ready to see where we can serve in public office. We find that there are a great many people that are upset with government, and Newt here lays out some of the things he's finding.
Great. Is there any way that the general public can get a hold of information along those same lines?
Oh, well, first of all, give me a call, or just ask for the GOPAC or American Citizens Television 800 number by calling information.
Or they could call Cititalk at 879-4822, and I'll be glad to get that information to you also. And let's listen to the tape now.
To get reinvested. I mean, I would argue that the average American gets about what they deserve in government. They don't pay any attention to it, they don't study it, they don't contribute to it, they don't work at it. And, you know, most people spend far more hours at physical maintenance or at their favorite hobby than they do at changing their government. So the machinery just keeps drifting forward and decaying. And that's going to keep happening until the American people get so angry that, you know, I'll give you one example. I tell almost every group I talk to that don't tell me you're proud of our young men and women in Saudi Arabia, but you're not registered to vote. And don't tell me that you don't vote, but you think you're a citizen. If you don't vote, you're an inhabitant.
That's right.
Citizens vote. Now, until we reestablish, it's just like the discipline of learning how to read or the discipline of learning to go to work. I mean, we got to reestablish the discipline of citizenship. That's what civilization's all about, is taking young barbarians and getting them to behave in different ways. You know, and what we've done for 2 generations, we've been engaged in this cute debate, including sitcoms, in which we debate whether the barbarians have better answers. You know, so if a 7-year-old says, I really don't want to read, we say, well, let's promote him anyway, because, you know, they'll be socially maladjusted if we slam them in the head and say, you're going to learn how to read, this is NF, you have failed, your parents have to come in. If we did that to them, they'd be traumatized, so instead let's them stay illiterate. Well, what happens is around 18, when they're still illiterate, they can't get a job. Then they rob you. You know, then if you're a conservative, you want to lock them up, and if you're a liberal, you say it's terrible that society has failed them. Usually if you're the one who's been robbed, you become more conservative, so you're more into the lockup school. You know, but it's nuts. So I'd come back and say to you, when you get mad, I'll tell you, when you get mad enough that you spend as much time and as much money on politics as you do on your favorite hobby, as a group, collectively, you'll change the government in a matter of 2 years.
That's my point, too. Politics has become my hobby. I don't want to be called a politician in the derogatory sense of the word, unless you'll preface it with the word citizen politician. I want to end the ruling elite status that is some of our congressmen have attained, all too many of them serving there for all too many years. And let this be a true democracy again that elects its representatives.
Or you could say self-serving there for too many years.
All too many are self-serving, yes.
I feel personally, and I know a lot of people do, that it seems that a lot of our politicians are self-serving. They're totally out of touch with real American life. They've lived in Washington for so long that they don't know what it's like to be a citizen anymore, and they tend to serve the people that court them, the PACs and other lobbyists, and it's really unfortunate that these people are supposed to be serving us, the public, not those people.
Yeah.
And themselves.
The members of Congress have built in at least $1 million worth of advantage to the incumbent, and so that we no longer have really a Democrat or Republican Party ruling Congress. It's the incumbent party. The incumbents have this multi-million-dollar advantage in getting themselves reelected, and we've got to end that. And that's why I'm glad to see my friends in the committee opposed to permanent politicians trying to help us think our way through and organize our way through to solving this kind of problem, to restore the health of America.
Okay. And what other organizations do you see nationally that are trying to do this? Are there more?
Well, yes, I'm particularly impressed with American Citizens Television. They have an 800 number that our listeners can find to learn more about how they can take part in creating the kind of citizen education through our public access channels that will help empower more people to solve problems. They recently did a program, for example, on the importance of choice in education. And it helped, I think, a number of citizens across the country to learn how we've done it here in Minnesota, what's happening in other states, too, where the opportunity to choose the school that you go to is finally creating the competitive situation to improve our socialized education.
Great. Well, it seems a lot then is in the educating of the public, our children, and our
and re-educating our adults.
And ourselves, too. There's
I put on a course in community education called See How They Run, a course developed by the United States Chamber of Commerce to help citizens see how they can plug into political campaigns and help their friend win. And it's quite an education into how to cope with the campaign process and be a successful part of choosing the leaders that you want in office.
I wish that there was something, an unbiased report that was made on politicians, their voting records, things like that, that was easily accessible, and there was some sort of forum for people who are new politicians that are just running, that better platforms for them to give their ideas and to speak, that so they don't need to have millions of dollars behind them. That
Exactly.
So the public can see. It's not all the public's fault either, because we just don't have that information to us, and the only information we get is some glitzy commercial that's on 3 weeks before the election. I mean,
that's why I'm
believes
working
anyway.
now, not only through the weekly TV program called Friends of Main Street, but recently, since I've been denied public access because I'm a legally qualified candidate, I've had to form what's called Citizens or Candidates Access Rights Project, CARP for short.
Okay.
Because
Minnesota organization.
we who are going to be taking part in this find fault with the rules that now deny the rights of candidates for public office to cable TV access channel time, at least in the Southwest Suburban Cable Commission's area.
I understand your problem there. That's an unfortunate situation that happened.
I want to thank you for attending the hearing and speaking up on behalf of the First Amendment and the rights of all of us to be heard on public access.
Well, I believe in public access, and I hope more people watch it and also utilize it too. It's a great means of power for the average citizen. And with that, we're going to wrap up this edition of City Talk. Thanks, Bill, for being on the show.
Pleasure to be with you, Mark.
And my name's Mark Sanchez. Welcome to City Talk. I welcome you to come watch us again. I'd also like, if you have any questions or comments about the show, feel free to call 879-4822 or write City Talk at P.O. Box 50303, Minneapolis 55405. And I'd love to hear what you have to say. And once again, thanks, Bill, and we'll see you next time.
Great pleasure.